Hello, hello, I am Sinner, and today I am back with another book review. This time we are reviewing the book Crystallizing Public Opinion by Edward Bernays. Now, this book is frankly very similar to Propaganda. Um, it really doesn't differ all that much in the what it's about, and that's fair enough because Bernays was just a propagandist. That was his career. That's how he made his money. Can't really expect him to talk about things outside of that or too divergent. Um, so I'm going to be mainly comparing it to propaganda. And what I would say is this: propaganda is specifically a endorsement of the use of propaganda in society and explaining how in different sectors of society propaganda is used, whereas crystallizing public opinion is more about psychology. It's more about how people behave, how people think, and how and to what extent you can move public opinion. And I think the main ideas that you should be taking away from this book, I'm going to save you reading the book. The main ideas you need to take away from this book is one, not all thinking is logical thinking. A lot of people, if they were to use their brain logically all the time to make every decision, it would take too much effort and too much time. We can't really write out syllogisms and I'm being hyperbolic here, but you can't write out a syllogism, you can't think rationally about every decision you have to make. Um, so what people rely on are stereotypes or associations. That is how most thinking is done, right? Which means that if you're a propagandist or an advertiser, what you can do is play on people's stereotypes and pre-established prejudices to suggest them to do something else. And that is probably the key thing because it also points out something which really frustrated me, especially more recently, the more I've been reading political theory and talking, especially with my friends who aren't into reading or politics. Not that they're not opinionated, and this is the point, but the the average person, no matter how ignorant they actually are on a topic, will typically still be opinionated on the topic. They'll still typically have strong ideas, or not strong ideas, but they'll have a strong feeling that they're right. Everyone believes they're right. Everyone believes that they're correct. And everyone feels very strongly about a thing. And that was like one of the things that when I read it, I actually felt like almost relief because I have been dealing with that frustration recently where, I'm talking to a friend about like democracy or something. And I'm talking like, oh man, maybe this doesn't line up with that. Like the one thing I was talking about recently with my friends was if you have a democracy, it should either be a direct democracy or it shouldn't be a democracy. Because if you believe in a parliament, if you believe that you need to have experts or representatives make the decisions for you because you're not capable of making those decisions, then fundamentally you can't believe that in democracy. But if you believe that people can make decisions for themselves, they should be making all the decisions for themselves. And like it was kind of really frustrating because I was like, "Hey, look at this." And like I got the most like lackluster, like brain dead responses from some of my friends. No offense to them. So yeah, it was kind of relieving. And the other main point of the book, which is kind of really important to point out, is how much can you manipulate the public? And how much is our media and our like newspapers, our movies, how much are they influencing us versus how much are we influencing the movies, right? Because the reality is if there's not an audience for something, that thing won't take off, right? if nobody liked conservatism, right? If nobody liked American conservatism, Fox News would be dead. There would be no one watching it. But at the same time, people would agree, yeah, Fox News has the ability to influence public opinion. And there's at the time when he was writing it, there was a debate on this. And he was saying, well, actually, it's not that the opinions of the public are totally like, what would you say? They're not like being constantly brainwashed, but it's not that the newspapers and the media are just representing what the public believe. It's a middle road where you can basically tilt the needle one way or the other. You can influence the public, but you can't brainwash them. You can't bring a new idea out of nowhere. It has to be built on other things that they already believe. Um, I was trying to think of an analogy for this, but in the book he mentions this story about how basically people at the time didn't eat bacon for breakfast, whereas now it's a staple breakfast food. And he was saying how that came to pass was a propagandist went around to a bunch of doctors and said, "Hey, is bacon is like bacon a hearty food?" And the doctors were like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he said, and then he asked the doctors, "Is a hearty breakfast good for your health?" And they all went, "Yeah." So there you have the two presuppositions that the people already have. Hearty breakfasts are healthy, and that bacon is a hearty food. So what the propagandist does is he just puts the two together. You should eat bacon for breakfast, right? And that's sort of you tilting the needle. You're not making up a new belief, really. You're just playing on people's pre-established assumptions. And that's how you tilt the needle. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking bacon as a food, which is now very, very popular. You know, you have bacon sandwiches, bacon burgers, like so many snacks are bacon flavored if you go to the shops. None of that I think would have been possible had it not become a staple breakfast food. So the idea of like, you know, bacon flavored, cheese crackers or whatever, that wouldn't have come about had it not been established before that bacon is a breakfast food and that it's good for you and then people would eat it a lot. You get what I mean? So I think there's a little bit of that. I think that's an okay example of this sort of idea of like tilting the needle, like suggesting where as opposed to creating or enforcing a brand new belief system. But yeah, it also goes for things like politics, especially. You can't really change someone's political view outright, but you can have like a quote unquote pipeline, which people talk about, where you sort of suggest something to them that's not too foreign, but slightly new and based off previous assumptions. And that way you can sort of not drive them down a rabbit hole, but like suggest to them more radical views over the course of like a few years, rather than it being like, no one's gonna lose a debate to their friends and go like, oh, I guess I'm a radical now. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. Great book overall. Um, it's probably as worth reading as Propaganda by Edward Bernays, but Crystallizing Public Opinion is, yeah, it's a great book. I really don't have much else to say on it, so I'll call it there. I am Sinner. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.